Good evening, folks. Welcome to NFL Vana. Hoysala Balavana. We are now live. Today we are going to talk about pre-game show for Kansas City Chiefs and Tampa Bay Buccaneers in Tampa, playing for Super Bowl, the ultimatum to become the world champions. There are many trivias, many things, so we'll go one after the other and we'll see how each team are stacked up and see and do a prediction of who is going to win the Super Bowl. One of the trivia is like, this is the first time ever a team is playing in their home field for Super Bowl. Before, it has never happened. Tampa Bay is very lucky to do that. But I don't know how many of you know, Tampa Bay Buccaneers do have a life-size ship in their stadium. They do have cannon in them, and whenever they score, they do fire those cannons. But for Super Bowl, since it should be neutral, they are gonna down them. So no cannon sound. They can do it after if they win it. They can do it in the beginning, but not during the game. With that said, let's start. So I'm pretty sure everybody knows Tom Brady and his achievements. We'll talk about it a little bit, but everybody talks about passing the torch to Patrick Mahomes, the new kid in town. I wouldn't say new kid anymore because he's already 3 years in and he's achieved so many things. Let's look at both teams head on and see how exactly they do it. When we are doing pre-game shows or when you're doing pre-game analysis and stuff, the most important point is you look at team's offense and the opponent's defense and then do the analysis exactly. So we're going to run this similar way. So let me start sharing my screen and then we can start on it. Cool. So how does Kansas City offense, which is so hot right now, since this season, actually since last season after they are being the Super Bowl champions, they are very hot. So let's see how their offense stack up against Tampa Bay. So Kansas City Chiefs in this season, they have more than 10 times the offense has scored more than 30 plus points, including playoffs this season. And they are 6th in point per games. They're 1st in yard per games. And in terms of getting the third down, moving the chains, they're number 3rd in the NFL. That's Kansas City offense for you. You can see that it's so difficult to achieve those numbers and they're standing there. Especially yard per games, they're first out of 32 NFL teams. Now let's look at Tampa's defense. What does they have for that? Tampa's defense have done good too.
According to BeatsNation.com, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have the best team.
Sorry about that. Tampa's defense is good too. They are good. So far, they are 8th in defense, meaning they have given 8th least for points per game, and they're 6th least defense giving yards per game, and they are tied up for 5th for turnovers. So essentially, they are the best defense which has come to play so far. When we compare both, you will see at the end that Tampa Bay defense is much better than Kansas defense. But we'll continue. So it is normally accustomed that normal NFL teams, when they are reaching the Super Bowl, they call high-performing defenses by some names. Like, for example, Denver Broncos did say no-fly zone. Patriots, at one time, they used to call them boogeyman. And there used to be names everywhere. So same way, Tampa Bay defense call themselves gravediggers. I don't know how many of you believe that, but they are. Essentially, they do come back pretty strong when you think that they're already downhill, they do come back pretty solid. So you can see that as we go on the stats, so you will see those. Okay, now let's continue with Kansas City. So Kansas City offense, you all know that they are doing pretty good. Their major horsepower is Travis Kelce, and Tyreek Hill. Both of those receivers, one is tight end and the other one is wide receiver, both of them have 1,200 plus receiving yards each, and both have together they have 26 touchdowns in this season. Kelce, tight end position, he himself in the AFC Championship game, he had 15 targets, 13 reception, 118 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Another monster year for him, 25 targets, 21 receptions, especially in playoffs, right? So 227 yards, 3 touchdowns in 2 games. That's a monster 2 games for him. In this season, he did receive 105 receptions, 16 yards, 11 touchdowns. He did break George Kittle's from San Francisco most yards by tight end, but he did it within 15 games, whereas George Kittle did with 16. Now let's look at Tyreek Hill. How does he stand? In the AFC Championship game, Tyreek Hill got 11 targets, 9 receptions, 172 yards, whopping 172 yards. That essentially means that the best defense on AFC, Bills defense, was none. I mean, they did not show up. Essentially, Hill showed his cheetah power. In playoffs for the last 2 games, 17 receptions, 282 yards, 16.5 yards per reception. So every time he catches a ball, he's bound to get cover at least 17 yards. That's his stats. And several of you, I don't know how many of you know, but Tyreek Hill, when compared to Usain Bolt, he runs faster than him. There is a video as well. He is the fastest man alive so far. Tyreek Hill doesn't run on the track, but he is the fastest. And in football world, they call him as Cheetah for a reason. In this season, he had 87 receptions, 1,276 yards, 15 touchdowns. Those 2 are the offensive horsepower for Kansas City. And yeah, of course, Pat Mahomes, the kid, awesome, 25 years old. He does a lot of wonders. You should see him throw under the belly. I mean, he can throw up vertically, horizontally, you name it. He is master of pass, and he's a great quarterback to my knowledge. So far, 588 pass attempts, 6 interceptions. That means that he has 1% interception rate, that no QB have ever better percentage than him. That's tremendous achievement from Pat Mahomes. In AFC Championship game, he did cover 325 yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks, and he had a passer rating of 127.6. That's tremendous. Anything above 100 is always considered as better, and he did very, very well. His career records, 44-9. So he has 44 wins and 9 records, including playoffs so far within his first 3 years. By the way, in Week 12, these 2 teams met. And when they met, Pat Mahomes went for 464 yards, 3 touchdowns, and look at his passer rating, 124.7. It's almost matching his AFC Championship ratings. This is the true power of Kansas City offense, which goes in like that. Now let's see whether Tampa Bay defense does equate to that or not. Oh, by the way, in Week 12 when Kansas City and Tampa met, Tyreek Hill roasted the Tampa's defense by freakishly running for 269 yards, 3 touchdowns. If you look at Mahomes' 462 yards, majority, 60+%, Tyreek Hill got it. So he got 15 targets, 13 receptions, 269 yards, 3 touchdowns. That was a monster game, and he literally broke every Tampa Bay defense back's thing. Nobody could catch him. Essentially, he was nobody could touch him. Essentially, and he also did he did kind of like bullied Tampa Bay defense, saying that let's call National Guards. They can try to catch me. So he did that. You can see it on NFL.com, that video. It is pretty funny. Let's see now how Tampa defense did, leaving out that week 2. Now let's consider week 12 too. Let's see how did they do. So there is Sean Murphy bunting. He is one of the most when they covered the receivers, he has been targeted a lot. That's why you can see he has allowed 126.1 rating allowed for any quarterback. So anybody trying to throw the ball towards him, a receiver covering this guy covering a receiver, if they throw the ball, then definitely he has a higher percentage of completion. He did get 1 interception, and he is 6th most yards allowed by any defender in NFL season. That's the worst, actually. He's 6th in them, but he is worst in Tampa Bay's defense. But he did do very good in championship game. Next is our safety, Tampa Bay safety, Winfield. He has better numbers than Bunting. He racked up 91 tackles, 1 interceptions, and he did sacks too. He got 3 sacks too. Carlton Davis, one of the star defender in Tampa Bay. He has better ratings than anybody else there in so far. 87.8 ratings allowed, 4 interception. Jamal Dean played very well. He does have little more higher ratings. He does allow a little more. 94.6 ratings, 7 pass defended and interception. Jordan Whitfield, he's a free safety. He did rack up well, and he did play so well in last championship game. 74 tackles, 2 interceptions, 4 pass defended, and then he did have a forced fumble too. With the injury report, I think so. He is gonna play probably. The rock star for this defense is Levante David. He is the linebacker. He has 117 tackles in the season, 1.5 sacks, 3 forced fumbles, overall 91.9 rating allowed, an interception, and he has 6 PDs. Overall, Tampa's defense in 22, they are 21st when you see yards per game. They allowed about 250 yards per game. They allowed opponent quarterbacks for 94.3 rating. They have 15 interceptions, that is tied to 7th in NFL. 70 pass deflected or defended, 14th ranked. That's how they stack up. So this essentially tells us that Kansas City offense is high octane power, especially the pass offense is superior when compared to Tampa's defense. Tampa's defense can be little, especially the pass defense is not so good. That's what this slide shows to you. Let's move on to the next one. Oh, by the way, there would always be so every game is different. When you take the whole season versus what Tampa defense is doing in past couple of games, especially all of them have been road games for them. Aaron Rodgers, if you look at Pat Mahomes, he has very less interception percentage. Same way Aaron Rodgers of Packers, he has the same thing too. In the whole year, he had only 6 interceptions, and 3 of them came by Bucks. I mean, Bucks essentially picked him off 3 times. That is 50%. So this clearly shows that Tampa defense, when it is really needed, they show up. And they did show up in the in NFC Championship. That's how they won. Their defense stood up Packers like anything. We'll talk about it more. Tom Brady threw 3 interceptions in the second half. First half, he was phenomenal. Second half, he threw 3 interceptions. But Aaron Rodgers and his offense, high-octane offense, could only turn to 6 points only. They couldn't do anything more than that. So that was one of the reason why Tampa Bay won NFC Championship. So let's continue looking at Tampa's defense, or let's look at Kansas City offense and see why exactly Kansas City offense, especially Tyreek Hill, all those guys have been so good. That's because their offensive line has been very good. They have allowed only 24 sacks so far. That is the 5th fewest in NFL. That means they give good protection to Pat Mahomes, and he's able to do what he needs to do. Let's look at that O-line and see how they are doing. Austin, he's rated 9th best center as per Pro Football Focus. I'm going to use PFF going forward. That's Pro Football Focus. He is the 9th best center. He's doing good. But Kansas City Chiefs lost one of their best left tackle, Eric Fisher. He got injured last time. In the AFC Championship game. They have a replacement O-line now. Left tackle now. That is something Tampa can take advantage. How? I'll tell you that. But let's continue looking at them. Still, with that injury, the O-line ranked 13 overall by PFFs so far in the season. The weaker point for Kansas City O-line is Wiley. His rating is 54.9, which is way, way, way lower than anybody if you look at the O-line ratings in PFF. He is the worst, and that might cost a game for Kansas City or not. That we will have to wait and watch. But stats line, he's the worst in that lineup of O-line. So after seeing this, you would say, okay, what is the advantage? So the advantage is Tampa's pass rush is the best. I say that because their motto is pass rush. They have 6 players, their defensive line, they have 6 players with 3+ sacks, tied to the 4th place in NFL. They are tied for 2nd for QB hits. They had more hits to quarterbacks than anybody else. Probably 2nd, but still they're strong when compared to the Kansas City Chiefs in that end. Now you see that, right? So you have only one best center in middle, but their entire O-line is depleted. That tells me that this pass rush can wreak havoc on that day. That means Pat Mahomes have to do his other magic rather than just relying on staying in the pocket and throwing the ball and stuff. NFC Championship game, Aaron Rodgers was sacked 5 times. He was hit 8 times. And remember, Packers were the least sacked. Aaron Rodgers was the least sacked quarterback, and their O-line was phenomenal. Against them, they brought him down 5 times and hit him 8 times. So you can imagine what they can do for Kansas City O-line. The star of this pass rush is JPP. He came from Giants, actually. Jason Pierre-Paul. He's been star. He's a leader in the team. 9.5 sacks, 55 tackles, 4 forced fumble, and followed by Shaq Barrett. Shaq Barrett basically in NFL in a championship game, he had 5 tackles, 3 sacks, 4 quarterback hits. Overall in 2020, he had 8 sacks, 57 tackles, 2 forced fumble, and he is 3rd most disruptor in the entire NFL. So you can imagine what kind of pass or what kind of rush he gets into the game. He is called disruptor for a reason. Overall, Todd Bowles is the defensive coach for Tampa Bay. His defense has been the best. They blitz a lot. They are 5th. They almost use 38.1. Essentially, blitz meaning sending 5+ men to catch the quarterback before he could do something. That's essentially the blitz meaning. They have most plays. They have 38.1% of plays. They have blitzed the opponents so that they can get to the quarterback quickly. So here in this slide, you can see that offense looks good, but their O-line is so bad that they might not be able to protect their quarterback. If that happens, this pass rush gets to Pat Mahomes more, then there is a good chance for Tampa Bay to win it. I'll tell you why, because we can take a look back at Kansas City offense, how they did in the entire season, and what was the thing at week 12. We can look at that when they met the first time, how it happened and what happened. Kansas City pass offense, they got 15 touchdowns of 20 plus yards. They're the first in the league. Their second most completions over 20 plus yards. They have third most play action attempts. Their rush offense is 4.5 yards. They stand 11th in the NFL, 112.4 yards per game. They are 16th in. Their rushing attack is led by Darrell Williams. He basically, in a championship game, 13 rushes, 52 yards, 4 yards per carry, 1 touchdown. They do have Edwards rookie. In 2020, he essentially ran for 803 yards, 4.4 yards per carry, 4 touchdowns. Assuming these two show up very good, they do have a good running. But if they don't, at least they do have a Le'Veon Bell as an insurance, who ran for 328 yards, 4 yards per carry, 2 touchdowns. Le'Veon Bell was the running back he was the workhorse in Pittsburgh Steelers before. We all know how well he can be. If he is active, he's a good addition to that run offense. Actually, the run offense is not just this. Kansas City, they run more jet sweeps than anybody else in the NFL. Their wide receivers have attempted 18 rush attempts, 2 touchdowns, most used by any team. And these wide receivers, they're speed killers. Essentially, you know why. You have Hardman, you have Tyreek Hill. Both of them you cannot catch. Tyreek Hill is like beast. He's a cheetah. Nobody in the ground can catch him. That's been the case. So let's see how this stacks up with Tampa Bay defense. Tampa Bay defense is rock solid when you look at all these things in the terms, because they have Devin White. He had 9 sacks, 16 quarterback hits, overall 140 tackles, 15 TFLs. In playoffs alone, he had 26 tackles, 1 interception, 2 forced fumbles, TFLs. He's a rock star of this defense. And you have Ndamukong Suh. He has 66 sacks, 44 tackles, forced fumble. These two guys are heavy hitters in front. They do block everything what it comes. And now that they do have Vita Vea back, he played 5 games, 2 sacks, 3 quarterback hits. When he is there, he can literally take that O-line, 2 to 3 people together, because you cannot stop Vita Vea. He's huge, big. You have to block him with 2 people at least. So that frees up the other people. And you can see why Tampa Bay goes for blitzing more, because they can have additional people free who can go and sack the quarterback. Levante David is their another star defensive player, 100 plus tackles in 8 of 9 years of his careers. 100 plus tackles every year. So he is star, he's the captain essentially, and then he takes care of job very well. Pass defense, 10th fewest completion of 20 plus yards. That goes against the Kansas City's, because Kansas City is like first in there, and these guys are first in their stuff. Against play action, they stand 7th. That means they can essentially read Kansas City offense as well. Rush defense, they're number 1. In the entire 17 weeks, 16 plus and playoffs, there is only 1 rusher who had 100 yards rushing against Tampa's defense. Everybody else, less than 80 yards or 81 yards. They are the first in rush defense. They have allowed only 3 plus yards per carry, and that is first as well in the entire NFL. So that's pretty much stacked up. So if you look at these, you would see that Tampa's defense is formidable to hold up Kansas offense, and they're pretty rock stars. They could essentially hold Kansas and create some turnovers with their pass rush and then try to get the ball to Tom Brady. The reason why I say this, getting back to Tom Brady or things, is like in week 12 when they met, it was just 1 possession game. essentially the way they have stacked up, any quarterback who has the ball is the one who might win. So we'll see how exactly that is gonna pan out on Sunday. But let's continue looking at how does Tampa's offense stack against Kansas City defense. Okay, you can see there, I do have a name says TB Squares instead of Tampa Bay. TB Squares is because the offense starts from TB12. That's Tom Brady. He is TB, and Tampa Bay Buccaneers is TB. So essentially TB Squares. That's the offense which they run. And as you all know, he is appearing for his 10th Super Bowl in his 20th career year. And no other quarterback has done that. So that's too many firsts. He's 43 years old. I would need another episode just for him to talk about him. So we'll not do that there today. In NFL championship game, as I said, the first half, he was phenomenal. 3 touchdowns, very good. He came back solid. But afterwards, in second half, 3 possessions turned into 3 interceptions. His overall rating was 73.8. But the first half was phenomenal. He played phenomenal. And also, in second half, he made sure that when it was very needed, he made sure that he did not turn over ball. He made sure they win for sure. And a trivia is like, if you look at week 12 game, Tom Brady threw 2 interceptions in the beginning of the game in the first half, and Kansas City offense get on, and then they scored points. They were back. But he essentially came back, 345 yards, 3 touchdowns, 6.1 rating. Almost close. One more offensive possession, they would have won the game. They literally came back so good. In 2020, he has touchdowns. This is only the seasons, not including the playoffs. He has 40 touchdowns, 12 interceptions, 102 rating, quarterback ratings. With he being in center, Tampa's offense are 3rd in points per game, 2nd in passing yards per game. So you can see that almost stacking 1 and 2. Kansas City offense is 1 and Tampa Bay's offense is number 2. They're kind of like stacked up 1 and 2. Their key offensive weapons, Antonio Brown. He joined in between. He played in 5 games. He had 4 touchdowns in those 5 games. In 8 games so far, 45 receptions, 483 yards, 4 touchdowns. Their main offensive weapon is Mike Evans. In an NFC championship game, 8 targets, 3 receptions, 51 yards, and touchdown. Entire season, 70 receptions, 1,000 plus yards, 13 touchdowns. And he has 100 yards in last 7 straight seasons. There is another person, Chris Godwin. He is another wide receiver. He's also stacked up well. In the NFC Championship game, he had 9 targets, 5 receptions, 110 yards. Overall in the season, 65 receptions, 840 yards, and 7 touchdowns. These 3 are rock star wide receivers. And by the way, Antonio Brown is the same guy who was rock star along with Le'Veon Bell in Pittsburgh Steelers. These are the 3 wide receivers, along with Scotty Miller, who does come in between and play sometimes. And he has 33 receptions in the year, 501 yards, 3 touchdowns. And by the way, NFC Championship game, there was 8 seconds left, and Tom Brady and these guys had a possession. They took a timeout to say they were about to kick a field goal. They took a timeout. They came back, and then they went for fourth down, literally 50-plus yards, touchdown to Scotty Miller, Tom Brady to Scotty Miller. That was the key for Tampa to hold their lead and win that NFC Championship. So this is the Tampa's offense, high-octane offense. So let's see how does they stack up with Kansas City defense. So Kansas City defense is quite good. They're doing some very good, especially in the playoffs. They're 10th in quarterback ratings, allowing quarterback ratings 89.4. They do allow almost 240 yards, 5th lowest completion rates in them for passing. They have second fewest yards allowed to the wide receivers this season. 16 interception, tied to 15th. 62.7 completion percentage, 5th in the NFL. AFC Championship game, they allowed only 6 yards. Allen, Buffalo's quarterback Allen, struggled a lot. His passer rating was 80 and below. This defense, main passing defenders are Snead. Snead is very good. He has allowed 53.4 rating only, the best among the cornerbacks. 3 interception. There is Breland. He is a little more high. He allows 90.3 ratings, 2 interceptions. Rashad Fenton, he has allowed 82, 1 interception. Ward has been a little higher. Normally, he's a phenomenal player. He plays very well. 94.1 rating allowed, 6 passes defended. The heart of this defense, pass defense, is Tyrann Mathieu. He was playing before in Arizona Cardinals. He's named first team All-Pro this season. He has allowed 70.5 ratings this season, 6 interceptions only. Not only, actually, it's more. So he is the rock star. He essentially runs this pass defense, and he ensures that they stay in the game. Thornhill is another one. He's the weekend, similar to what we saw on Tampa's defense. There is Thornhill on Kansas defense, where he is allowing more than 120 plus ratings, and he had only 1 interception. He's the weak point for where Tom Brady can start attacking. There is Sorensen, Daniel Sorensen. He had 91 tackles, 3 interceptions, 2 forced fumbles. He's another player who is good at it. So these are the pass defense. When you compare these two, essentially Tampa's offense and Kansas City defense, they're kind of like balanced out, similar to what I showed you guys in the first slide, where Kansas offense and Tampa's defense. So essentially what I'm saying is both offense and defense of both teams is kind of like stacked up. They're doing tremendous and they're doing good. So that's not just the offense Tampa Bay has. Tampa Bay has a lot of weapons. It does have tight end Cameron Braid, who had 16 targets, 11 receptions, 149 yards, and touchdown. And not only that, they do have Gronk. Gronk had 45 receptions, 623 yards, 7 touchdowns. He did not catch the ball so many times as he used to do in New England Patriots, but when he was asked for, he did. That's why you see his stat line like that. And he does catches the ball. And even in NFC Championship game, when it was required the most, he got 29 plus yards, crucial yards, so that they could close on the game. This Tampa Bay Square offense is 11th in third down, and they're 7th in red zone touchdown percentage. That means if they are in the red zone, between like 20 yards to the end line, they do score. They have a higher percentage of scoring. 67 completions for 20 plus yards. They stand third. And previously, when you see, Kansas City was number 2. So essentially 1 and 2. TB12, he has 9.3 intended air yards average. He's number 1. And when I showed you the Kansas City's offense, Pat Mahomes was number 2. This O-line of Tampa Bay, they're rock solid. Why? They are 22 sacks allowed only, 4th fewest. So you saw on Kansas City side, they are 5th fewest, and these guys are 4th fewest. So you can see that. The only difference is they lost a player. These guys did not lose a player. Tampa Bay, Tom Brady, he has an average rating for 81.8 when he's blitzed, when 5 plus men come to him. That's about 20th in the... So Kansas City defense can take care of that, right? So if they have a good pass rush, then definitely they can screw up Tampa Bay's offense rhythm, especially Tom Brady's rhythm, and then they can win the game. O-line is pretty rock solid, as I said. So it starts from Donovan Smith. His rating is 72.1 as for PFFs. Tristan Wires, he is like 11th best tackle. Ali Merritt is like 3rd best guard. So their O-line is rock solid. And Gronk kind of plays that in as part of the O-line, stopping the rushers, and then he gives Brady a lot of time so that he can do it. That's why his receptions is less. And Tampa's another key thing is they are not only stacked up on the pass offense, they do have rush offense similar to Kansas City, but they're better actually. Leonard Fournette, they call him as playoff Lenny. They call him that because since last 3 games, if you take him, he has 4.5 yards per carry games. In NFL, especially NFC Championship game, he rushed for 55 yards, 4.6 yards per carry, and a touchdown too. And they do have a rock star, Ronald Jones, who ran for 978 yards this year, 5.1 yards per carry, 7 touchdowns. If you see overall, Tampa Bay did not rush so many times as much as normally any other NFL does. They have the 4th fewest rush attempts, but if they have to balance it out, looking up at the matchup, they will. That's their strength. Now let's compare this to Kansas City's defense. They have a problem. They cannot hold up tight ends. They have given 5th most yards to tight ends. They are ranked 17th. They give up a lot of third downs, and they are last in red zone defense, meaning that literally if anybody can get to the red zone area, doesn't matter how the quarterback rating is, doesn't matter how rushing is, they have given up touchdown for the opponents for sure. Essentially, they are the 32nd team in that. Chris Jones has been their defensive player who has been heart of the side. 7.5 sacks, 36 tackles, 2 forced fumble, 3rd most pressure among DTs. So he's one among them. That is the guy who is to watch out for. But the O-line on Tampa Bay is stacked up, so they should be able to take care of him. In this season, he has 32 sacks, 999 quarterback hits. He's tied 10th in NFL. Frank Clark, 29 tackles, 6 sacks, 2 forced fumble. This Kansas City defense, they are 4th in blitzing. You can see that, right? So Tampa is 5th in blitzing, and these guys are 4th in blitzing. So they both like rushing people, 5+ people more to wreak havoc the game plan of opponent offense. They have allowed 5th lowest passer ratings. That's one of the benefit for them. Rush defense, 4.5 yards per game. That's 20th in NFL, so they give a lot of yards. That's one of the benefit for Tampa Bay offense. Ronald Jones and Lenny has been great in that for past couple of games. And they allow 122 yards per game, which is 21st in NFL. That's very bad as well for them. They don't have good pass defense as well. Now, if you look at that, Tampa's offense is kind of like more good than Kansas City defense. So if I have to rate Tampa's offense and defense together with Kansas defense and Kansas offense is 1, Tampa's offense is 2, Tampa's defense is 3, and then Kansas defense will be 4. So Tampa Bay kind of have an upper hand there. So, but still, as I said, in week 12 when they met, Tom Brady turned over ball a couple of times. They did mistake, but whoever has the last ball, they might win the game. So essentially, that's essentially what it shows up. Both of them are stacked very well. So let's look at the special teams. That's the only team which we did not look at. So let's look at that and make sure that we see. As far as special teams goes, Tampa Bay, they have 33.6 yards per return. They have allowed that, and they are the last in the NFL. So their special teams are not doing a great job. But their kicker is good. He had 90.3% field goal percentage. He's 11th in NFL. He has 1 out of 2 50+ yards. And in playoff, he has never missed field goal or single point. That's his benefit, Ryan Suckup. On the Kansas City side, they are fifth ranked. That means they allow very fewest yards for the opponent team in terms of kick returns and all those stuff. So they have 25. They allow around 25 yards per return. Harrison Butler, their star kicker, he has good rating, 92.6 field goal rating. He's ninth, and so far 4 out of 4 50+ yards field goals he has made. So essentially, if you look at special teams, offense, defense, both the teams are stacked up well. The only thing which differs is experience, and Tampa's defense is a little bit higher. And unfortunately for Kansas, they lost their key player, Eric Fisher. So that's one of the drawback for them. But let's see how it is going to stack up. So with that said, now we are at a segment where we could do our own predictions. And most of you know, whoever is watching, especially my friends on Facebook and people who know me, they know I'm a big Tom Brady fan. So, of course, I'm going to be cheering for Tampa and Brady. So, my prediction is Tom Brady gets to pick his 7th Super Bowl. By the way, trivia. So, if everybody likes to compare Pat Mahomes to Tom Brady and say, oh, next Tom Brady, essentially similar to how we used to do it in cricket, right? So Sachin Tendulkar was there, and then there came Virat Kohli. We said, oh, Virat Kohli is next Sachin Tendulkar, blah, blah, blah. And then he took several years, blah, blah. And he did achieve it. So same way in football, Pat Mahomes is compared saying next gen Tom Brady is essentially Pat Mahomes. So if Pat Mahomes continues in the way how he is playing today, he would need to play for another 18 seasons to get to records of Tom Brady to break it and say, I am GOAT. Right now, Tom Brady has 80 plus playoff wins, which is almost double than his next best person. Lot many stacks. So essentially, if you look at Pat Mahomes, he has to play till he's 43 years old to get to that numbers. So literally having to have Kansas City go to at least 2 championship games every year, and he plays well and he makes that, he would be reaching 41 to 43 years old. That's when he will beat Brady's current record, provided Brady gives up and retires today. I mean, after this season. But that might be the possibility, right? Because he is very strong. I don't know how many of you have seen him. He looks 25 years old. He looks like a 25 to 28 years old. He's playing so well. At the age of 43, he threw 40 touchdowns. That's like 5th best in NFL. He's doing phenomenal. And with so many offensive players stacked up, yeah, let's see how it is going to go. With that said, go Tampa, go Brady. Thank you.